Hi, welcome to my presentation. My name is Camille Nunez and we'll be going over the Action Research Plan. There are 9 steps in the Action Research Plan. The first one being to create your focus statement. My focus statement is the following. The purpose of my study is to explore how integration of students' cultural backgrounds can positively influence instruction and to review what ways student culture can be integrated in lessons. Students come from a variety of different cultural backgrounds and they all learn in different ways. The focus is to find ways that incorporate different learning strategies and cultural traditions so that it helps students to be successful and makes the lessons more relative to them and more interesting. The second step in the Action Research Plan is to define the variables. And the variables that I find they include the different cultures of the students. There's a cultural awareness, a class with cultural awareness and teachers who are aware of it versus a class that doesn't have any cultural awareness or instructors that don't have any at all. Another variable is instructing with different learning styles versus the traditional teaching where there's a professor in the front teaching in the front of the class and students are just to listen. And another variable would be students or teachers who are unwilling to participate, as well as parents, because they would be involved as well. The third step of the action plan would be to develop research questions. I have 3. One is, how will incorporating multicultural awareness benefit students? The second one is, what are the best ways to help my students learn? And will multicultural awareness combined with different learning styles, improve my students, their grades overall, and what they're learning? The fourth step is to describe the intervention or innovations created. So I have 4. 1, I will incorporate multicultural awareness for my coworkers, faculty, and teachers' aides. I will use multicultural studies when teaching students to make lessons more relatable to them. I will survey parents about their cultures and what's valuable to them, what's valuable in your culture. I think that's really important. And I'll survey parents about their observations. How do you think your child learns the best? What interests your child? How do you think I can best reach your child? And so all of those are important. The 5th step would be to describe the membership of the Action Research Group. And I'll be working with the faculty and the staff on a school regarding a social studies class. And the teachers' aides are involved. They'll be given a brief cultural awareness and information on the different cultures, specifically Native American, African American, and Hispanic cultures, and how they learn and what their preference styles are. Parents will also be part of the research, and there'll be surveys and questionnaires to better understand them and their cultures as well, aside from any research materials that is found. The 6th step would be to describe negotiations that need to be undertaken. So what I feel would be negotiations would be more along the lines of permission. So we need permissions from the parents, permissions from students, and the agreement of both of those, as well as the buy-in for students, and not just the students, but the teachers, the staff, and the aides. The surveys and the questionnaires that are to be used, they should be reviewed by a group beforehand, so that it can be determined that there are no derogatory comments, anything discriminatory. They should be reviewed for cultural bias and definitely be culturally sensitive. And the goals, I believe, of a lesson should be transparent to everyone. So transparency is really important, especially if you want to gain trust. Moving on to the 7th step, The seventh step of the action research plan would be to develop a timeline. So I've developed a timeline starting from March 12th, going all the way over through April 30th. And between March 12th and the 14th, the parents and the students would participate in surveys and questionnaires. Also the 15th and the 16th of that same week, we would now analyze the findings of the surveys and the questionnaires. Then the following week, we would have a mini workshops for the teachers and the instructing staff to provide some ideas and things like that. The week of the 26th to the 30th would be ideally teacher planning. And then April 2nd, the class would begin. On April 9th, we would do formative assessments, observations, questions to see how the students are understanding. On the 13th, we would survey students again. On the 16th, we would modify any curriculum or instruction as needed. On April 19th, we would do another survey, and then for the parents, and then also do some additional formative assessments. On April 23rd, we would modify the curriculum based on the assessments and based on the response that we see from the students and the families. And then on the 30th would be the final summative assessment, which of course is important because the summative assessment would give us an idea, something measurable, to see if there was additional learning because of the steps that were made. A statement of resources is important because we definitely want to make sure that we're prepared. So we would want to have the time for planning, which would be the week of March 26th through the 30th. Online surveys, which we can make and go through surveymonkey.com. We would also create questionnaires, quizzes. We would have a summative assessment, audio and video materials, as well as those audio and video capabilities. We would need planners, calendars, and handout and booklet materials for parents and teachers as well. The last step of the action plan is to develop data collection ideas. So I've divided it between qualitative and quantitative data techniques. So I mentioned some of these before. We would have questionnaires, video recordings, formative assessments such as observations and notes, focus groups and interviews. Those would all fall under the qualitative data techniques. The quantitative data techniques actually gives us numbers and more specific data. So that's where we would look at quizzes, surveys, and the final assessment, of course. Thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful rest of your day.